we've been talking a lot of shit on directors lately. I'm going to be honest. I think this is a case where the director made a film that they actually meant to make, and the fan base themselves turned it into garbage.
I agree with that. I watched it recently, and I just don't understand the mystique about it. I don't get it.
Well, what I was reading about the director said that he didn't want to make a moving or tear jerking film, that he basically wanted to make a very plain film, and he didn't want like the main character to have, all this appeal, which, you know what, if that's what he set out to do, I think he did a very good job of that, because I don't like any of the characters in this movie.
I don't either. I don't identify with anyone at all in the film, and I think the director kind of, for me anyway, that's what he succeeded in doing. I mean, it's the film tells a story. I don't find myself rooting for anyone. I just feel so detached from it. But yet, everyone in the fan base that sees this film is so moved by it. It's so sad, and I just didn't get any of that. I mean, yeah, the general premise of the film is very sad, but again, I don't feel like I'm a part of it, that I don't identify with any of the characters, or that we don't really get to know them at all. So he very well succeeded if that was his point, at least with us. With everyone else, it doesn't seem like it did.
I will go so far as to say this is possibly the worst Studio Ghibli movie.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Well, personally, I enjoy another film by this same director called Pompoko. I enjoyed Pompoko way more than this. And Pompoko is about a bunch of tanukis stretching out their ball sacks.
Yeah. Japan, what a place.
But I was looking through his filmography, and I realized that I've seen several films the director has made. And I think he really did succeed with making just terrible characters with Grave of the Fireflies.
Not one of the characters is likable or relatable again. He definitely succeeded there.
And the writer of the short story did not believe that the film could be a live action movie because he didn't feel that children were good enough actors. Well, spoiler alert, the little girl in this movie sucks even as a cartoon.
You think a 4-year-old would still have a grasp of what's going on around them and the dire circumstances. It wouldn't be so whiny about things.
Well, that's another thing. I was reading an interview with the director, and he said that he meant to make her fucking obnoxious.
Again, with me, he succeeded. At some point, I was just like, "Come on, knock off." You do, and that things are being rationed right now. You do understand that, your mom is gone. She's not going to need the kimono anymore, so it's better to sell it and get some money on it. I mean, I know that sounds cruel, but obvious things take priority now. I mean, your home just burned to the ground. Things aren't really getting any better. Oh.
Well, the director said that he said 4-year-olds are selfish little cunts, so I'm going to use a selfish little cunt. And again, I think this is more the fault of the fan base for being a bunch of idiots who cry about this movie. There's nothing to cry about. This movie is just, there's nothing here for you.
I'm saying it's a case of like too much soy or emotionalization. I didn't feel sad watching this, and growing up in the 80s, there were a lot of films that had sad moments in them that I remember, and there were reasons why they made me sad. The characters, these characters here, They don't really grow on you at all.
Perfect example of a film using, your emotions is The Neverending Story with the scene with Artax.
Mm, the Swamp of Despair. Is that what it was called?
The Swamp of Sadness.
Swamp of Sadness. I was synonymous. I was close. Yeah, that was sad. I remember that when I was a kid. This film, it doesn't have that impact, and I don't know why people believe that it does. And I'm not saying like I don't have empathy for the characters. It's just more like circumstances around it. It's taking place during World War II. These things happen during. It's. I mean, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying this is all part of it. If this happened in other circumstances, then yeah, this would be more sad, I would think. And also, again, characters in identifying with them. But
well, and let's just go with the Japanese war angle. There are much better movies out there that deal with the concept of war in Japan. One of those movies is Akira Kurosawa's I Live in Fear, which is about a guy who is afraid of the atomic bomb dropping on them. Akira Kurosawa's Rhapsody in August also deals with post World War II Japan. Clint Eastwood's Letters from Iwo Jima, talks about the war, like the side of Japan during the war. A manga I'm reading right now, Asadora, also covers this. Grave of the Fireflies is not unique in any way.
If I'm not mistaken, the director wasn't intending on making an anti-war film, yet the audience is again misinterpreted as being anti-war.
Exactly.
We're seeing a pattern here.
It seems to me that the director is in no way to blame for this movie. It is solely the audience to blame for going around, saying it's a sad movie and that, we feel sorry for the little kids. And do you know what? I have said this before on this podcast. I watched this movie with my daughter. At the time, my daughter was probably 11 when we watched this, 10 or 11. My daughter did not cry when the little girl died. Instead, we both cheered the fact that she was dead.
I didn't quite cheer, but I felt nothing. It's like the writing was on the wall for me. Okay, she's very sick, she's malnourished, death is almost imminent. And well, she died. I mean, that's terrible. Death is a horrible thing when it happens. But I'm not saying just because it's a work of fiction, but man, it had like no impact at all on me. And I'm thinking that goes back to what the director said, that he didn't want to create characters who were likable.
Well, the thing is, I want to make it clear, unlike Joe during the Kevin Smith podcast.
There we go. Say the line,
I am not. We are not monsters. We are not monsters. But the thing is the little girl was so damn obnoxious, just whining constantly throughout the movie. We cheered not because she was dead, but because she would no longer pester us with her constant whining. If you would like to watch a better animated movie, go watch Wolf Children. Go watch Castle in the Sky. Go watch Nausicaa. Go watch Nausicaa. I don't remember the subtitle of Nausicaa.
I know I'm kind of out of my realm here. I myself don't really watch a lot of anime. But I mean, so I can't really come up with any recommendations, and especially in this type of genre. But I'm gonna let you take that and continue on.
Well, these are all better animated movies from Japan. There are if you want good animated movies, and it doesn't matter where they're from, go watch literally anything from Leica. Leica is a fantastic stop motion company, and I feel like they don't get enough credit. They are fantastic. They did Coraline, they did Paranorman, they did The Box Trolls. The Box Trolls might even be their weakest film, and I still love that movie. They did The Missing Link, they did Kubo and the Two Strings. They have done numerous fantastic movies, spectacles. And it's just like, you really want to talk about, like, oh, a cartoon gave me emotions. Go watch Dragon Ball Z. I had more emotions watching Frieza destroy Krillin than I had watching Grave of the Fireflies. I don't know why this movie is so heavily praised by its audience, other than the fact that maybe this is Train to Busan syndrome. Train to Busan is a lousy South Korean movie that a lot of people really, 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 really love because that was their introduction to South Korean cinema. I watched it. I thought it was ass.
We might have to do that first.
I have watched numerous South Korean films. I have watched Old Boy, JSA, The Host, Memories of Murder, The Tale of Two Sisters, Bittersweet Life. I had watched all of these before Train to Busan even came out, before Train to Busan was even a fucking sperm cell. But because of these people who don't watch a lot of South Korean movies, they go and watch Train to Busan and their minds are just blown away by this mediocre zombie movie from a different country. And I think that is the same problem that Grave of the Fireflies has.
As soon as they watch it, they all of a sudden become like a film connoisseur. It's the greatest thing ever because it was the first dance from Japan in this case.
This level of film criticism is why people think Christopher Nolan is a great director. Christopher Nolan is possibly one of the most overrated filmmakers, but we are not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss why Grave of the Fireflies is just the most boring, bland animated movie I've ever seen. I don't even like... Even in regards to animation, I don't see anything spectacular here. I don't see anything spectacular on display.
I mean, I didn't either. And again, I mean, I haven't really watched that many anime films. I mostly stick to just, series and a few of them. But even for its time, because this came out, what, 1989, if I'm not mistaken?
88.
88. Quality of anime was not really that mind-blowing for me. It wasn't really that visual, because you look at something like, well, when did Akira come out? I know that one's kind of considered to be the high watermark of anime films.
88.
88, same year. That blew me away when I first saw that. I mean, it was one of the first anime films I've seen, but it has held up well compared to other stuff I've watched, including series and other things like that, and in that element. I mean, we might be going, apples to oranges here. Drama and one's, sci-fi, body horror, a cyberpunk type of film. But still, there's nothing really impressive about the visuals in Grave of the Firefly.
I will agree about the apples to oranges comment. However, I will agree with it for a different reason. Akira, as fans of Akira may know, it was filmed at 24 frames per second, whereas Grave of the Fireflies, I'm pretty sure, was done at the standard, 12, I believe it is, for animation.
I believe so.
That is why I will say it's apples to oranges. But the thing is Nausicaa, which was made before Grave of the Fireflies, is fantastic. Like, even watching it now, it is a stunningly beautiful film. Castle in the Sky is another beautiful movie. And those were both made before Grave of the Fireflies. The fact that Studio Ghibli made this movie and it's so incredibly bland, even the color palette's rather bland, it's kind of, a detriment to their legacy.
Yeah, one thing about the color palette on this is with serial anime, like television shows and stuff like that, that air weekly or whatever. Usually, the animation quality isn't as on anime films. I mean, this film just didn't have that. It looked like a serial anime, and just it's kind of what pulled me out of it. I think another thing that pulled me out of it, and I'm kind of wondering how. I'm just wondering how they let that slide. With like a quality control thing, but it's just someone asleep at the switch. You kind of expect more from them at that point, I would think.
And again, Pompoco, which is by the same director, has a much nicer color palette. Watching the Tanukis grab their scrotal sacks and stretch them out, it's pretty impressive. It's
it's a feast for the eyes. But yeah, getting back to the palette and just the animation, I found myself kind of bored during most of the film. I mean, I'm paying attention to it, but about the 30-minute mark in, I was like, okay, when is this going to get over? I've got other stuff I kind of want to do today. It didn't really grip me all that well. And I think the visuals were largely to blame for that.
Well, it's not only the visuals, but we are introduced to the fact the main character is going to die by the end of the movie. We are introduced to that.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Whenever a movie does that, you can tell that they are being incredibly lazy. Another movie that does that is American Beauty, which is about Kevin Spacey being thought of as gay, and he's not gay, so Chris Cooper shoots him in the head. The end. That's American Beauty. Sorry to spoil it for you guys.
Also, very overrated film, in my opinion, which will probably eventually show up on this podcast sooner or later. And I'm not one of those people that hopped in the long after it won the Oscar that started saying it was overrated and didn't deserve it. I thought that after I watched it. I was like, what is the deal with this film? But we're getting way off subject here.
I don't even know what I want to say about this movie because it's just so it's so bland. It doesn't really offer other than the fact that it makes soy boys and weebs cry. I don't see why anyone should subjugate themselves to this mess.
I had to surmise it. I would almost say it's like a depressing slice of life, near the end of World War II setting type of film. A lot of stuff in there that I thought was like, okay, we're just throwing this in there because we're trying to establish, this is how they live, stuff like that, cooking, cleaning, food or whatever. There wasn't really anything that, like I said before, is great about the film. I failed to see yet again why so many people think it's so great and so moving.
It's funny that you mentioned that you call it a slice of life film, because that's kind of how the director intended the movie to be. He wanted to show this is how they're trying to live their best life despite the circumstances. So again, the director did his job, but the director can do a fantastic job and still churn out a shitty film. I have a perfect example of one. Dodes Kaden, directed by my favorite director, Akira Kurosawa. Dodes Kaden is another just slice of life film about a bunch of people living in a Japanese slum and it's a very depressing movie. There's this mongoloid who thinks he has a train. There's this girl who gets raped by her dad. There's this couple that decides to become swingers. There's not a lot of the stuff going on. However, if I was told that I need to pick out Dodes Kaden or Grave of the Fireflies, I would 100% of the time pick out Dodes Kaden, because Dodes Kaden at least has a nice color palette going for it. But my point is even my favorite director has failed at times. Another movie he failed at was Most Beautiful, but we're deviating from the subject, so let's get back to Grave of the Firefly.
This film is so just non-gripping that we deviate so much away from it just because we talk about how bland it is. At this point, I'm thinking like maybe we should just put on another podcast and listen to that instead. Not necessarily we're doing a bad job. It's just that this, oh man.
But the thing is like we're like the director of Grave of the Fireflies. He did a good job, but the fan base has fucking ruined this movie. I originally decided to check out this movie because I was told by numerous people that it was a very beautiful story, but it was very sad and it really brought him down. One of our friends told me to my face that this is the only movie that has ever made him cry. And I said, wow. When I watched this, I said, wow, what a pussy.
It's just baffling again how random of this movie. I mean, it often ends up like you mentioned, listing those moving films that's depressing, that's so depressing that you can only watch it once. I mean, I've only once because I just didn't care for it. But you look at some other films that often end up on those lists, like Requiem for a Dream. That's a depressing film. I mean, you actually do get involved with the characters, and by the end of it, they're all in a very bad place. And yeah, you just feel like shit watching it. This film doesn't do that.
What's interesting is you keep bringing up how a lot of people say you should only watch this film once. You should only watch this film once. I watched this film, I'm going to say 5 times. This is not in full. I've watched it in full once. I started the movie on 4 different occasions trying to watch it, and I would fall asleep because I was so bored with this film. Like I said, the color palette's not really nice. There's nothing that animation-wise that makes me go, ah, yes, what a fantastic job animating this or that or whatever. I mean, we brought up Akira. Akira invented something like 26 different shades of red simply for one movie. They invented it. What does this movie have to offer? It has nothing. Like, there's nothing of value here. And I think I'm more angry with the fan base for existing for this very bland movie and just going, oh, it's so sad. It's so sad. And then the little girl dies and you're laughing your ass off because you're so glad that she was so obnoxious that it's just like, why?
I think the only thing I noticed that with the film, they seemed to try to bring up emotion. They kind of knew how to use the right sound cues and music to pull on the heartstrings, but that was it. I mean, it takes a lot more than that just to kind of, bring the tears, let the salt flow, that sort of thing.
And I just realized this at this point in the podcast, but we're going to probably get a lot of shit for shitting on this movie, and that's fine. I don't care what you think because you're wrong. But I just want to tell you that Joe and I both watched the Japanese audio with English subtitles. So we are not, I don't want to hear any of you weeaboos coming in here saying, oh, well, you need to watch the Funimation audio, or you need to watch whatever audio this is, or whatever audio this is. No, we watched the way that it was intended as closely as we could. And it still sucks.
It's like an hour and a half of my life that I lost watching this. I think it was about an hour and a half of time. And I mean, as far as like fans coming after us, I mean, that would just make sense all things considered. I don't really know how toxic their fandom can be. If this film makes you sad, it probably have your emotions fully in check. To leave it at that.
That's pretty brutal. This movie makes you cry. You don't have your emotions in check.
You know, this is probably going to outpace my Kevin Smith remarks, so at this point, I don't care. I don't have to...
Say the line, Joe.
I thought one of these days I'm going to bump into Kevin Smith. He probably won't even know who I am, so... I just films and maybe get a part in it and then have somebody take this and send it to him. Like, hey, he said this about you. Answer Joe. So
you mentioned
the off subject here, but this is far more entertaining than Fireflies.
But anyway, the thing is you mentioned having an hour and a half of your life stolen. I've got news for you. The movie's not that long.
It felt that long. Jeez.
I thought it was a 2-hour long movie because it feels like 2 hours. There are numerous Herschel Gordon Lewis movies I've watched that are way longer than Grave of the Fireflies, and they don't feel nearly as long as Grave of the Fireflies because it's Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Master of gore. It seemed like there was not much to tell in this story. They flushed it out and just padded it as long as they could. We're talking like, maybe we're talking like levels of Toei animation padding. Just without the extensive reaction shots and everything else.
Well, you're right. There is not a lot of story here because it's based on a short story that they decided to turn into an hour and 20-minute long feature film. I don't know who could do that. That's like somebody telling me, RJ, you should make it. I actually heard this one. This was just ridiculous to me. You should make Invisible Diary of a Disabled Man into a feature film. There is no feature film there. I look at that as a writer, as a filmmaker, as an editor. There is no feature film there. I can't do anything with that. But the thing is, people will want to turn things into feature films, just like people want to turn things into series that don't need to be series.
Not enough story there. It makes sense, though, that it was a short story and semi-biographical one, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm a bit puzzled because the protagonists die in it, so...
That's why it's semi.
Yeah.
This movie is basically a nothing burger. And I feel like us making a podcast dedicated to that, is just emphasizing the fact that it's a nothing burger. How many times have we now deviated from the talking about this movie? When we talked about Pulp Fiction, we continued talking about Pulp Fiction and Quentin Tarantino. When we talked about how shitty Kevin Smith is, we talked about how all of Kevin Smith's shitty ass movies. However, Now we are stuck and we're just going around in circles going, this movie is bad. Why is it bad? It's boring as shit. It looks ugly. It has no good animation. It's boring, and the main characters all die. The boy dies at the beginning and the girl dies halfway through the movie, and she's so fucking annoying that you're going to be glad that they're all dead. And then you just go, man, I just wasted an hour and 28 minutes of my life. And then you get up from the couch or whatever and turn off the movie, and then you walk away. And it's like, what the fuck?
It's basically the best plot synopsis I've ever, honestly. With all the stuff I've read into it, that's pretty much nailing it right on the head there.
This movie is a nothing burger. It's got nothing going on. I'm really questioning everybody. I question everybody's taste who tells me this is a good movie. Just like I question everybody who tells me they love What We Do in the Shadows.
But I know a lot of people rant and rave about how great it is.
It's boring. I watched the trailer and I was so disappointed because like all of the best lines were in there. Just like Tropic Thunder.
Wait a second, aren't we supposed to be talking about again? Man, that film is just boring.
See, and people are gonna use this against us. They're going to say, see, they really didn't hate Grave of the Fireflies because they had nothing to talk about. We have nothing to talk about because there's nothing there. I feel like honestly, I feel like we have wasted all of this time talking about a movie that who the fuck cares about this? Like the only people that are probably going to care about us bitching about this shitty ass movie are people that haven't seen it, and they're going to go, huh? You know, those guys autistically talked about Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino. I wonder what they have to say about Grave of the Fireflies, which all my friends tell me is this really depressing movie. And they're going to listen to it and be like, these guys have rambled on about nothing. There is nothing here. They just keep going on about other movies that suck. They don't talk about anything else.
Well, that's just it, though, because there are better awful movies for us to spend our time shitting on than Grave of the Fireflies.
You know what? No, here's the thing, okay? This is going to be the next few moments of this podcast because, like I said, there's nothing more to talk about with this movie. We have addressed all of the problems with this movie very quickly. It's boring. It's ugly. There's no real cool animation. The director even was like, yeah, I'm just trying to make like the shittiest movie possible. And he succeeded. Good job. I don't know his name. Takahata-san, whatever. Yeah, good job. Wolf Children, better movie. Akira is a better movie. Spirited Away is a much better movie. That hentai I watched last night is a better movie. Herschel Gordon Lewis movies are better movies. Leica movies are better movies. Go stop wasting your time with this mundane bullshit and go watch a good movie like something Leica made. Go watch Missing Link. Missing Link could be a terrible movie. Okay? It's not terrible, but Missing Link is not one of Leica's best efforts. It might be below Box Trolls. But you know what? I would rather watch Missing Link 15 times in a row than watch Life of the Fireflies again. I don't even know. Go watch Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction, though it may suck, is a better movie than Grave of the Fireflies because at least things happen in it. Watch Yoga Hosers. That's probably a better movie than Grave of the Fireflies. Go watch the Kill Stream with Ethan Ralph. You might be more entertained than watching Grave of the Fireflies.
Ethan Ralph sharded.
I guess overall, what we're really trying to say is, if Grave of the Fireflies is your favorite movie,
then your favorite movie sucks.